Hey, Rebel Bankers, welcome back. I'm your host, Chris Noggle, and I'm joined with my friend, Steve Trang from The Sales Trainer. Steve's got a lot of businesses, but today we're going to talk about The Sales Trainer, what he does, how he does it, and we're going to dive deep into it because what I want to get out of Steve is I want to get a little bit about how he's done what he's done this year specifically. During COVID, one of the worst years for many businesses has been his best year. And we're going to talk about how. But before we get into Steve's story, his history, and everything he's got, let's talk about all of you. Let's talk about your journey to becoming a Rebel Banker. And your journey begins with getting knowledge, getting educated, finding out what your path is. And a lot of people think that that's the answer. The person that said knowledge is power is one of them, and that is not the answer. You see, the answer isn't in the knowledge, it's in the application of the knowledge. So all of you need to apply what you learn here on this podcast, what you learn day in and day out. Don't just go around picking up pieces of candy called knowledge and doing nothing with them. Find the one thing that really motivates you and go deep into it and apply it. And I'm going to motivate all of you to do something and take action because this is a good exercise. So if I give you something for free, will you actually do the work necessary? So how about this? I'm going to give you a copy of the Private Money Guide, or I'll give you a copy of Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, or heck, you can have both of them for free. But what it's going to require you to do is take action. That requires you to go to my website, chrisnoggle.com, one swipe of your index finger, and it's right there. It's a free book. Click it and read it. And we'll see if you actually take action on that because, again, knowledge isn't the power, it's the application of knowledge. So let's get on with this. Steve, welcome to the Real Estate Money School.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That's been long overdue. So let's dive into your business today. What exactly does Steve Trang do?
Steve Trang, I would say the bread and butter is the sales training. That's kind of what I spend most of my time doing, but that's just one of a handful of businesses. So we got the sales training, we got the brokerage, we got the title company, we have our traditional real estate team, we got the wholesaling flipping team, and we have an app. So so we're in a little bit of everything, but I would say the focus or the main driver right now is the sales training.
So in a year like this, you have literally taken what most people would see as the worst year in business, the hardest year to make things work, and you have literally exploded. Can you talk a little bit about what you did at the beginning of this year to what you've done now that's really exploded your business?
That's a great question because that's one of the things that Jim Collins has talked about, 15 years to become an overnight success. And I think that there were just a lot of foundational pieces that were laid throughout the years where this year gave me the opportunity to kind of launch. And so I would say that I didn't necessarily do anything differently. I would say that I've just been consistently growing and taking action, which you mentioned just a couple of minutes ago. Consistent action, moving towards a desired goal. I know what I want, and I'm going to keep moving in that direction. And if anything gets in my way, we just step over it, move it aside, whatever. But we're just going to keep progressing and moving forward. And I think that's really what happened for me this year. It was just the kind of like George Foreman, I'm just going to keep coming, and eventually we're going to get there. So I think that's kind of what you saw this year.
You're right. And I like that because, a lot of people do, they start seeing your stuff. They see, your different posts and like, oh, another guru or another overnight success. But you've been at this for a long time. This isn't an overnight success. This is just You found your pivot, your moment to launch, and you kept coming, just like you mentioned. But let's take a second. My audience might not know who Steve is, where you came from. So do you mind if we take a trip back in time and talk a little bit about maybe where did this all start? What was your first deal like? And, how did all of that transpire from then till now?
Yeah. So I would say the first thing is I didn't start off on the investment side. I started on the traditional side. I started as a realtor. And so I was a former engineer, worked at Intel, had a great paying job, quit that job, had the financial security, all that good stuff, the benefits, the golden handcuffs, quit that to become a realtor in 2007, which in hindsight was not the best time to do it. But I'm glad I did because it gave me the humbling experiences that I needed as a young, cocky individual to realize the world's not going to be as easy, to take over as you think. So my first deal really was just regular real estate transactions. There was a condo conversion because this is back in 2007 when it was going down and like the smart people could see the writing on the wall, but not the general community. And so I sold some condo conversions, really bad investments, to friends and family. And I didn't realize they're bad investments because I'm an optimist. I think things can only get better. And so that's how I got started. And then once the bottom fell out, then I got into short sales. And we did the short sales, we did foreclosures. I listed properties for banks, learned about that whole other side of the world, how Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Wells, and how they operate, and how the rules that apply to them or that apply to us don't apply to them. And eventually I got into the real estate investing side by buying houses on accident.
By accident. Can you elaborate on that? Like, that's just you just kind of dropped it right there, just by accident.
Well,
was it really by accident, or was it actually something that happened that you'd been working toward, kind of like what you were talking about?
No. So I was doing the guaranteed sale program. In fact, I still wear a shirt that says, your home sold guaranteed or we'll buy it. And we were going to these houses and they're like, well, we want the cash offer. Like, no, you don't. You don't want a cash offer. No, you want to list it. Because if we list it, we can get you more money. And they're like, no, we want the cash offer. I was like, but if it's cash, it's going to be this amount. They're like, yeah, that's fine. We'll take it. It's like, okay. So we bought the first house cash and I didn't even have the money in the bank. So I actually called my dad on the way home. Like, hey, Dad, do you have money? Like, because we just bought a house. I just committed to buying a house. So do you have money? If not, I was going to have to figure out a way to come up with the money, which I would have, right? I mean, if I had the mortgage, everything, I would. But that was the first one. And then it happened again. It's like, okay, well, 80% is too much to offer for a guaranteed cash offer. So we lowered it to 75. And people were still saying yes to that number. We're like, okay, I don't mind buying at 75%. But then we ran out of money because too many people were saying yes, right? A great problem to have. Absolutely. And so then I had to start wholesaling. Yeah. And that's when I connected with Jamil, which you've had on the show. And he was my wholesale mentor for a bit before we got to where we are today.
So I guess you really did fall into that. It's funny, you were talking about the time frame in which this was all happening, and you were saying, maybe not the best time, but, I had Jory Alston on the other day and Sean Whalen, and, both of them had these moments during that same period of time. And, neither one of them said what, and you didn't say it either. Neither one of them said, oh, it was the worst time ever. I wish I didn't get in then. They said, thank God that's when I got in, because of the lessons they learned through the failures and through the hard times that they did. They were able to excel out of that. And it sounds exactly like what happened to you. But not only that, you sort of just fell into it, which is just hilarious. I thought you were joking. I truly did. Like, you were like, oh, I just fell into it. And I'm like, and then mic drop. I'm like, yeah. You didn't just fall into it, but you did. So with wholesaling, so you were doing that and then you ran out of money and now you're wholesaling. So let's talk a little bit about wholesaling. First off, like, just in a simple way, explain to the audience what wholesaling is. And then what I want to do is I want to go a little deeper into that, because I feel like that's a really good topic for today, given the times. And also there's so many wholesalers out there. What makes a good wholesaler from a bad wholesaler?
Sure. So the first thing, wholesaling, it's arbitrage, right? It's just buying something at one price and selling it at a higher price. It's no different than any other business. If you go buy a refrigerator at Best Buy, they're buying it wholesale prices and they're selling it for retail. The difference is they're actually taking ownership of it and selling it. I guess maybe another example would be like commodities or options, right? Absolutely. You're buying the right to buy something and then you're selling that right to buy something. So for wholesaling, generally speaking, in Phoenix, we can buy at 75%. That's actually a good deal. I know like all the schools or the videos and the books say 70% minus repairs. If you can find that, good for you. We can't find those. So if we can buy it for 75% and we'll sell it for about 82% of market value, and that 7%, that's our profit. And it's profit. That's the revenue. Our expense is very minimal because we're not taking ownership of the property, right? So that's what wholesaling is. As far as what separates a good wholesaler from a bad wholesaler, I would say is business acumen and ethics. The business acumen, you have to know what you're doing because you're dealing with someone's home. You're dealing with, they're dealing with real pain, whether it's, a death in the family, a medical illness, a foreclosure, divorce, whatever, but you're dealing with someone who's relying on you. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're hurting them. You're putting them in a worse spot than before they met you, right? So I think that's the first thing. You have to know what you're doing. And the second thing is the ethics. I'm not saying that it's wrong to buy a person's house at a deep price. I know there are a lot of people that feel that way. I don't feel that way. What I have a problem with is there are some investors around that will make a commitment at like 90% of market value, knowing that they can't get the homeowner down. And then like the day before close saying, hey, we got to drop it 25,000. When now they got no negotiation power, right? They've lost all leverage. And then you do this. So I think there's an ethical component. So we'll never commit a number that we can't perform on. And unfortunately, there are a lot of guys that train people there are other sales trainers that teach people to buy, lock it at whatever price you can lock it up at, and then do a price drop 2 days before close.
Yeah, that doesn't sit well with me either. I mean, there's a level of ethics that needs to go into this business, like you just mentioned. And, our job as real estate investors, or pretty much anything anyone's doing, your business, your number one job is to solve people's problems. Your number one job is not to take advantage of people's, bad times or hard times or, unfortunate events. Your job is to solve their problem. And that problem solving should benefit both people. It should be a win-win transaction. They win because you solved their problem. You win because now you created an opportunity for yourself. But I guess I don't see that a lot, but I definitely know there's a lot of people out there teaching that. And I think there's also a lot of people out there, teaching wholesaling as just this get rich quick thing. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about that. Is wholesaling a get rich quick type of business?
It's sold that way, but it's not that at all. So there's that idea that, you hear these things like, you can buy houses with no money down, which is absolutely true. You can buy a house with no money down, but it costs a lot of money to find those houses that you can buy with no money down. And that's the part that they're not selling you on the infomercial or the seminars or the YouTube videos. So it is something where you can create incredible wealth. You can get rich over the course of a year and a half if you do everything right. But the likelihood of you doing everything right is pretty low because there's a lot to learn in that period of time. You got to learn marketing, you got to learn sales, you got to learn escrows, you got to learn dispositions, you got to understand what people are willing to pay. Like there's a whole lot of things that go into it. How to do just a simple market analysis. I mean, there are people that are trying to wholesale, they don't know how to do market analysis. And so can it be a get rich quick scheme? It can be, but it is not this pipe dream that is constantly sold.
And I think you're right about the people not even knowing how to do market analysis, not knowing how to look at comps or even know what their property's worth, because I get a lot of those deals and I look at it and I'm literally looking at the deal and I'm like this isn't even a good retail deal, but yet they think it's a wholesale deal because they just don't know what they don't know. And, so I've seen some of the stuff that you post and I watch it and I watch your podcast all the time. You have a great podcast, probably one of the best, when it comes to real estate. Thank you. Not only that, but your sales training, the way you do it is not just, hey guys, here's a digital course, watch it and learn. You actually walk people through a process. You take them through the process and you make them do things that are hard to do, like get on the phone, call somebody and show me how you would talk to them. And you do that role play. Like that's the best way of learning. How did you come up with a training system that's designed around actual real life scenarios like that? Like what made you do your sales training different than what everybody else is doing?
I think that one of the things that we were fortunate is that we're teaching a system that we use ourselves. We're in the business. And I think also coming from a business perspective, having multiple businesses, is that I know where, I don't want to say laziness, but the lack of comfort. You want to delegate cold calling. And I've seen it for many, many years. And that's the reason why I challenge people on it, is because you're saying you want to get wealthy, but you don't want to do the one thing that creates wealth, right? So like you want to delegate, you want to jump from, sitting on the bench on an NBA team to the owner's box. You don't want to become a starter. You don't want to become a coach. You don't want to do GMs. You just want to go straight to the owner's box, which is nice. I can't blame you for it, but you really have to understand how everything works together, and you can't if you're not in there. And there's a lot of stuff that you can be taught. Like, I could right now, I don't know, learn how to, I could read a book on how to fix a car, back in the day, you can't fix a carburetor today, but back in the day, when I was growing up, that's what we would do. We would take a carburetor apart and, put it back together and so on. And you can learn how to do it reading a book, but then you'll really understand it when you actually do it. Taking the engine apart and putting it back together, now you really understand how the car works versus, just theoretical watching on YouTube or reading a manual you buy at an Auto Trader, or not Auto Trader, at a Checker Auto Parts or whatever they have, in your part of the country.
So one of the things too that I think is very important that you mentioned there is really the way to success is to do what everybody else is unwilling to do. Nobody wants to cold call. No, I don't care if you're the best wholesaler there is out there, you still don't like wholesaling, but you're going to have to learn it. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to know how to do it. Just like any business owner, a lot of people think that, if they're not a business owner, they think you start a business, you sit in your desk, you just cross your arms, put your feet up all day and you make everybody else do the thing, all the work. No, when your toilet is overflowing, you're in there with the plunger. You're doing everything yourself. And that's how you're learning. You're mastering it because you're actually doing it, which is what you're talking about. And your training is actually teaching people how to do the things they're not comfortable doing, that they don't want to do, but they have to learn and get over that fear or that reluctance or whatever it is. And we live in a weird time, Steve, a time where all the information we could ever need, want, and desire is at our fingertips. Literally, anything I want to know, I go to the Oracle, AKA Google, and I can have the answer to everything. So we live in this digital age where we have all the answers, yet we never, ever take advantage of that knowledge. We don't actually apply the knowledge that we learn. You heard me talking about it earlier. So where do you think that disconnect is? Where now we have more than, growing up, we're about the same age. We didn't have half the things. I don't even know if we had a quarter of the things that are available today. But what we had, we used, applied, and mastered. And that isn't the case today. Where does that disconnect with people?
I think this is kind of like what you see the lost decade in Japan and all these other, civilizations. We get comfortable. Why would you subject yourself to cold calling? Why would you subject yourself to this pain? The pain of failure is not big enough. For me, I have crazy desires. I have crazy goals. There's a reason why I'm willing to do the crazy things I'm willing to do, is because I have these goals and these objectives that I want to hit. And not only that, but I also have a little bit of a paranoia that I think someone's going to pass me. So I got to keep going hard. But I think that for a lot of people, why cold call if you don't have to? If you're content making 40, 50,000 a year, you don't need the cold call. You really don't, right? If you're happy watching Netflix, eating potato chips on your couch, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, right? That just isn't a life for me. I still remember, even during the times, 2008, 2009, when it sucked, being a realtor, it sucked. And I remember looking at some of my friends man, I wish I could be content playing video games, renting an apartment. I wish I could, because then I wouldn't be in this crap situation I'm in now. But I'm not. I will never be content playing video games, renting an apartment. I want to make a dent in the universe. And for me to do that, I have to do the things that no one else wants to do. I'll give you an example right now. And this is what I'm trying to lead. And it's embarrassing, what I'm doing right now. But I'm recording videos on TikTok. I look absolutely silly, absolutely embarrassing. You know what? But I'm trying to make a point. You got this 40-plus-year-old man recording videos on TikTok. I'm trying to prove to everyone else, I am willing to do uncomfortable things. I'm not at a point now where I can just rest on my laurels. I will continue to do uncomfortable things for me. And uncomfortable things for me right now are different than what was uncomfortable when I was 30 and when I was in my mid-20s, right? But I think that I'm trying to prove a point. I will continue to do uncomfortable things. I will continue talking to people that don't need to answer my phone calls because I have these things I want to accomplish in life.
There it is, buddy. The uncomfortable videos on TikTok right there. Yeah. I've been testing it out. It's weird, man. It doesn't feel right. I feel like you said, I'm too old to be on here. I have a whopping 889 people following me. Yeah. And there's people that have millions. One of our mutual friends, he's much younger than we are, jumped on there, put I think it was his first or second video, and it got 280,000 views. I'm like, I think it's just because he's younger, but you're right. Mm-hmm. It is uncomfortable. I don't want to use that. I want to stick to what I know, but you know what? We got to put ourselves in those uncomfortable situations to kind of realize like, that's just what it takes. We got to constantly test ourselves. And you're right. If you're going to make a dent in the world, you better keep testing yourself, because you know what? We all get a little rusty from time to time if we just keep doing the same thing.
We get comfortable. As a matter of fact, one of those nights we were going to bed and my wife's like, it's embarrassing seeing my husband on TikTok dancing to these things. I said to her, I was like, it's embarrassing for me too. Like, it's not like it's easy. It's not like I can't wait to record these videos. No, it sucks. But I'm asking people to do things they don't like doing, and I will continue to do things that I don't like doing.
Is there anyone that holds you accountable, like mentors or anybody that kind of puts you in those situations sometimes when you just can't do it yourself? For social media, I got Ryan Pineda, I got Connor Lee. They're both kicking my butts on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So I got those guys holding me accountable. We're in a group text. Business wise, I got my best friend. He's the one that convinced me. He was the only one who said it was a good idea to quit my good paying job to chase real estate when everyone else said I was crazy. I meet with him every single month. As a matter of fact, we have our accountability call tomorrow. And I recently signed up for someone to be my business development kind of guy, Gary Harper. He came in a week and a half ago and basically blew up. I was feeling pretty good about my businesses. And he's like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And you have 3 months to fix this. Like, okay, well, now I have a plan. So I do have people that I look up to and respect, but I wouldn't say necessarily hold me accountable. I think for me, again, it goes back to that thing. I don't know why I have to do what I do, but I know that, I think you feel the same way. Like, we're destined for greatness, and we're going to be destined for greatness. We can't be comfortable. No, and it's never been that way. I mean, I could go into stories, but this is about you. But you're right. Like, there's something that happened a long time ago in both of our lives. Where, like I said, we're about the same age, that kind of made us different, made us think different, or just set us on this mission that, we'll never be satisfied. That's the downside to you and I. We're never going to be satisfied. Right. Doesn't matter. It's not about, a lot of people are like, oh, when's enough money? And if you think it's about money, you have it all wrong. It's not about money. The money is just a piece. It's a tool that's there. It's like another shovel on the wall. That's all it is. There's something much bigger. There's a lot of greats out there. I mean, too many to even name, but Steve Jobs being one of them. Folks, if it was about money, Steve Jobs would have stopped way, way before he stopped. And he didn't even stop the day he was breathing his last breath. He wasn't done. It was just his time was up, because he had some work to do upstairs instead of on this planet. But that's the thing. Like, it's just a different breed of people. And I wish there was something that said, this is where it happened and this is why you are the way you are. But I don't think there is. I read a lot of books, and I don't know, you ever read a book that talks about like that one thing that happens? Is there a book like that?
Maybe Outliers. I don't know.
Yeah, I've read that one. It's good.
Yeah. But yeah, I could say, I mean, for me, I think that, my parents sacrificed everything to come here, for me to chase the American dream. And I feel like if I didn't do everything I could to make the best of it, I'd be letting them down. And that could just be some craziness, in between the ears. But I think that's one of the things that drives me. I don't know for sure, but I think it's, having a chip on your shoulder, being an immigrant. I don't know for sure. For me, it doesn't matter whether you do or don't know for sure. It's your thing that so it's yours, right? You can own that. And I think that's powerful. So let's talk now. So let's go into these times that we're in right now. What are you thinking is going to happen here? Is real estate going to keep going up? Is the stock market going to keep going up? Like, what do you think is going to happen in 2021? I can't speak for the stock market. I suspect the stock market will keep going up because we're pumping all this money into the economy. True. But real estate, from what I've read, from the other analysts that are way smarter and compensated way better than I am, they're saying that the Fed and the government are going to keep the mortgage rates down to keep people buying, keep purchasing power higher. And as a result, prices will continue to go up. I'm skeptical it will continue to go up for the next 3 years, which is what they're predicting. I'm very confident that 2021 will be really good in real estate. I think that there will be some challenges because prices going up does not indicate that realtors or investors will have success. Because supply could be an issue. Like the challenges that we see all the time is if you're talking to a homeowner that wants to sell, but they have nowhere to buy, they're not going to sell. So supply, I think, could be a challenge. Volume of transactions could go down. But I think as far as like a homeowner who ties their net worth to the equity in their real estate, I think they're going to be great. So I think we're going to have challenges in maybe potentially in the investment community and the realtor community. But I think as just an average American, you're going to be doing great as far as your real estate values go.
Yeah, and I agree with the problems. I mean, the problems of supply are big right now. I mean, even here, I live in Buffalo. You're in Arizona. You're in one of the hottest real estate markets in the entire country. But I'm in Buffalo. No one in their right mind wants to be in Buffalo. And if there are, then I really need them to look themselves in the mirror and say, I love it here a couple times, because then eventually their lie is going to become real. But anyway, our real estate's out of control. I mean, me and my wife, just to humor ourselves, when we were going around looking at houses were staying on the market a day, sometimes 2 days, but they're selling way over ask. We went and looked at this flip, and it was way overdone, beautiful property, but they were asking a mint. Now in Buffalo, this is like a 3,000 square foot house, all redone, and it was selling $799 or $699, which I looked at and I said, this guy's crazy. He's never going to get that. He got full price for that house. I literally sat there and I said, there's no way that just happened. But I mean, if that's happening here, what the heck is going on in Arizona? And how are you still able to keep finding deals like you are? You are indeed finding deals.
I can tell you it's a lot harder. So we are working harder to find deals than we were last year. We're working way harder. So matter of fact, we actually expanded into Albuquerque, the state next door, to start doing more business. And then we're starting to do more TV stuff. So we are getting, I wouldn't say creative. I would say we're going down the more expensive avenues because that's what is requiring for us to continue to get deals. We are having to spend way more money to get cost per deal is way higher in 2020 than it was in 2019.
But is the markup higher because there's more buyers that are looking for the deals you're finding? So you might be spending more to acquire the lead and get the deal, but are you making more on the back end that weighs that out?
On the wholesale side, no, but on the deals we take down, yes. So if we're taking it down, then yes. But if we're trying to wholesale it, our margins are about the same. And I'll give you one other bit of information too. Not a lot of people talk about this, but in Q3 of this year, we actually had the second highest number of new listings ever in the Phoenix market. And our supply is still continuing to go down, which is showing how hot the demand is. So supply is coming on the market today, right? And like I'm saying, I'm concerned about where supply sits in the next year or two, but supply actually went up, or as far as new listings went up, but total supply went down because that's how hot our market is. It's nuts. I think we have fewer than 4,000 single family homes for sale in a Phoenix market. And we're in a market with 6 million people. Yeah, with like 6 million people, we have 4,000 single family homes for sale.
That's
and a
crazy.
healthy market is 30,000 in Phoenix.
4 to 30,000. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, on the deals you're taking down, you said those are a little bit better, but like, are you having any issues finding contractors to do the work on your properties?
No, we're not having issues finding contractors, but I know a lot of people are. The biggest problems we're not finding personally, but I know a lot of our peers are, is materials. Lumber prices doubled. I don't know what other, parts or whatever, but I know that the cost of materials has gone up. Cost of labor has gone up, but we haven't had an issue finding labor, but we don't do a lot of flips. We are deemed ourselves reluctant flippers. We don't make it look good like you do on HGTV. Our flips, listen. Our flips are not good looking. We typically, the ones that we flip are because we couldn't wholesale it. And again, we made a promise to the homeowners that we're buying it.
That's a good way to do it because you're standing by your word.
Yep.
And yeah, there's nothing, we might have made houses look good on our show, but you know what? There's nothing fun about it either. We struggled through those, and those ones that looked really good on camera, a lot of times are the ones we made the least amount of money on. The ones that weren't so good that you never even saw on a Facebook post, we probably made the most on those, which I think is kind of what you're saying. A lot of times people get into flipping and get into real estate and they They get so involved in their flip and their project, trying to make it their perfect house, that they lose sight of why they're in the business altogether. You're in the business to make money. And by trying to make this perfect house, because you must envision that you're going to be living there, and then all of a sudden all your profits just went out the door, and you probably created something that you want and nobody else really is going to want. So
exactly,
that's a big problem. But let's come back to the sales trainer. What happened that made you say, I want to teach people? Because you could have been just fine doing the business yourself, going out there, getting deals, and made plenty of money, done all the things. Why training? What motivated that?
What's crazy is growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher. But I looked at how much teachers made. I was like, well, that's not going to happen.
True statement.
Right? So I always wanted to be a teacher. And so for me, I saw an opportunity, because there is one other major sales trainer. I mean, there's one guy, he's the guy for sales training, And so for me, I was like, okay, well, there's only one guy that's the guy, then I'll be Avis. What's Avis's model? We're number 2, right? We're not Hertz. That's their model. And so for me, I was like, well, if I can just be Avis and sales trainer as a sales trainer, I'll be totally content with that. And so for me, I looked at, because there's no shortage of wholesale coaches, wholesale mentors, and all that other stuff, right? Business coaches, whatever. But there is this, there are just fewer sales trainers out there. It's like, okay, well then that's the we'll take the boat out, see how this goes. And what was really amazing was that when we started doing it, we got a lot of really overwhelmingly positive feedback. As a matter of fact, I'm in Collective Genius now, and as their sales trainer, and I was looking at it, I'm training 16 of their people, right? There's 120 people in it. And we have 16 clients in there. And of the 16, we have 4 or 5 of the top guys in the country have entrusted me to train the acquisition guys. So totally, validating, fulfilling. And the great things I hear is like hearing someone turn their year around, right? Not the business owners, because the business owners are doing fine, but their acquisition guys. When I hear that their acquisition agents are turning the year around because of our training, like that totally feeds my soul. And that's the best part. So going back to being a teacher, like I genuinely wanted to be a teacher. I just couldn't afford it. And now I can.
That is pretty awesome. Yeah. I mean, that would be a huge thing that would make you just feel really good, is when you change, like you said, the business owner, it's great that they're making more money, but when you actually get down and you're training their acquisition guys and all of a sudden you change their world, their year, that's powerful. And that's got to just drive you. So with Sales Trainer, now that you've tested it, it's working, you've got the model, where are you going with it? Like what's your desire in the next couple of years for the Sales Trainer?
I mean, I would say, I haven't said this before on air, but, I'm gunning for Jordan Belfort and Grant Cardone. Nice. I think that they're amazing sales trainers. They've got an amazing track record. Not well liked, but
neither one of them.
Right. But they've got every reason to feel good about themselves. And so I want to be the guy that can teach people how to sell and be likable. Right. I want to be able to teach someone how to walk into an appointment, sell the right way, ethically and morally, and leave the transaction where the other person is like, man, I'm really glad that Steve was was at the table, or Chris was able to help me, versus like, man, that Chris, he really got me. Right. Which is kind of the other selling style.
Yeah. Well, you're a very likable guy, so I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. So, and it's interesting. I don't know if you know this, but little sidebar, Jordan Belfort, like, is he working just to pay back everybody still, or is he over that hump now?
I got to imagine he's over that hump.
I would think so, but he owed a lot of money.
He did get screwed on the Wolf of Wall Street movie. Hollywood has a way of doing that to people. Yeah. I mean, they didn't pay him anything, right? They got fancy bookkeeping.
What do you mean nothing?
Like royalties. Like the idea is like, I'm gonna take the Chris Noggle story. We're gonna call it the Chris Noggle story, and we're gonna pay Chris royalties when we make the movie. And then when we make the movie, we find a way of doing, multiple bookkeeping practices to make sure that the movie is not profitable.
There's no way Wolf of Wall Street wasn't profitable.
Oh, it was definitely profitable the way they keep their books, right? And it's not just Jordan Belfort.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Lots of guys, a lot of people. This is something that happens all the time, where someone's life story is sold, and you think, oh my God, okay, I finally made it. I can, relax. And then Hollywood totally screws you. And it's like, it's like the Harvey Weinstein story, right? I mean, they just screw everybody.
Yeah, good point. Good point. I didn't
Yeah.
know that, but that is interesting. I just brought that up. I absolutely love that movie. I mean, matter of fact,
That's an amazing
can't
movie.
see the painting up here, but it's him holding that dollar and that,
Yeah. I love the movie.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not love his style, but love the movie.
Yeah, you can't love his style too much because that would show some problems. But anyway, all right. So we got all these things going on. Like, how do people become part of your trainings? I mean, is it something that's offered to the public? Is it something that's just offered to companies? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So right now, for someone that wants to take our trainings, it's just disruptors.com/max, MAX. I will tell you that the training today as it stands is catered for real estate investors as it stands today. However, I do have my book. It should be out, supposed to be out any day now. And then once I approve it, we're going to be in Amazon. So, in the next week or two, once we have that book is written in a for any industry, right? And then, once that happens, once that takes off, I would love to be in a situation where I could be speaking for companies and so on, teaching people how to sell systematically. And I want to be clear, right? I'm not the first one to do it. And I'm not saying any of my stuff is original, to be honest. None of it is original, right? Like everything we do is built on the shoulders of giants. So there's a lot of different things that I've learned along the way. It's just the way someone put it is my gumbo. Took this piece, took this piece, took this piece, took this piece, mix it all together, and this is my flavor. So that's what this is.
I like that. But yeah, I mean, it's very hard to find things that that are original in today's world anyway. A lot of them are gumbos, but you know what? The gumbos are the ones that really change people's lives. And if you've got the secret sauce that fits the bill for what people need, it's going to be a wild success. And you've got the perfect blueprint. You've got all the track history on it. Not only that, you've got the giants that you talked about that you can just follow their path to success. Very easy to see how someone like Grant Cardone did it. He was very transparent about, I did this. And if you went to the first 10X, you see that natural progression. So, I mean, you got the roadmap. You just got to follow it and make it your gumbo. I think that's phenomenal because I think a lot of people are going to need this, especially moving forward. This isn't going to get easier. If the market does continue as hot as it is, which if the Fed keeps pumping this printing press, with the Federal Reserve, like this isn't going to slow down. Like you keep putting money in. I mean, we're not going to see any real big problems from all this money printing probably for 5 to 10 years. And in 5 to 10 years, it's not going to be a little problem. It's going to be a monumental problem that may never be able to be fixed. But hey, that's the whole
thing. Kick the can down the road.
I was going to say that's somebody else's problem, for somewhere else. And that's how politicians look at things today. So,
exactly.
It's what it
exactly.
is. So in this journey that you've gone on, what have been some of your biggest internal obstacles that you've had to face?
Internal obstacles. I mean, I think probably one of the biggest things is, you talk about your strengths or your weaknesses. One of my strengths, people may consider a weakness, but one of my strengths is, supreme confidence. Like I will figure this out. I will find a way. And so the problem is there are times where you will not find a way. And when that happens, man, it's a kick in the gut and you do set yourself back. But it's that I wouldn't trade it for anything else. But there's been several times like, man, I finally figured it out. And then humility occurs. So for example, we had, like I said, Gary Harper come out here a couple of weeks ago and I was feeling pretty good. As a matter of fact, a few weeks ago, someone was asking me, like, what help do you need in your business right now? I was like, actually, I feel really good about my business right now. And then he came out. So I think maybe the lack of introspection at points. I would say that's one. Every business is a sales and marketing business. Everyone that's listening to you should be well aware of that. And then the next frontier really is finances and people, which you speak a lot on the financial component. But people are irrational beings. You and I are no different. And so the bigger the organization, the more craziness is injected into the organization. And I wouldn't change it, but that is a complexity that is still difficult to overcome. We got over 100 agents at our brokerage. We have, between all the different companies, we have multiple employees. And so just trying to manage all of it, I don't think anyone's mastered it. There are a lot of people done a really good job of it, but I don't think anyone's mastered it. And that's the the biggest hurdles that we're still working on.
That's a big hurdle, because you're right. And you said how many agents?
Over 100. I mean, we have almost 1% market share with our little tiny brokerage.
That's crazy. And how many years you been at the brokerage now?
We started in 2013. So we're wrapping up our 7th year.
7 years, 1% of the market. That's huge. I didn't realize it was that big.
Yeah.
And I know a bunch of your guys too. I know some of your top guys, and they're crushing it.
Yeah. Well, we created a culture where if you're not trying to be the best, or you're not trying to be the best version of yourself, it's gonna be uncomfortable, because everyone here is a savage. And it's not ruthless. It's just, do your best or go work for somebody else. There's going back to college, playing basketball, not that was any good. But I remember we're playing pickup basketball, and there's guys and they're just taking it easy. They're having fun. They're laughing, whatever. I was like, what are you guys doing? They're like, we're just here to work out or have fun. I was like, well, then go have fun on someone else's team. Why the hell are you wasting my time? I came here to play and have fun by winning. Right. And so I think we have this culture where we're all pretty competitive. And if you're satisfied with mediocrity, you're going to be so uncomfortable here. So they leave. So I think that's the reason why we can have such a market share with just a handful of agents.
Yeah. And I mean, and the cool thing is you're surrounding yourself by doing it that way, by making it uncomfortable for people that just aren't willing or able to live up to the standards in the culture. Like you're making it so that all these people are making a lot of money, doing very well, and changing a lot of people's lives. And
exactly.
The few I know are doing exactly that. And they're not slowing down, because you're right. They're savages. All right. That's what they are. There's no other word for it. With that, what is the biggest advice you could give to my audience?
It goes right back to what you started the show with. And this is something I've been preaching on my show recently. I want to say the last few months. It's consistency. The gurus will tell you massive action, massive action. You hear this all the time when they're pitching you a product. It's not massive action that wins. It's consistent action. Is you coming in every day to do your work, to do your magic, right? To do what you do best. And if you can just execute just a little part every day, you will be surprised what you can accomplish. I think I can't remember who said this, but we all overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but grossly underestimate what we can do in 5. And so if you just take consistent action, you'll be amazed at what you are capable of.
That is some strong advice right there. And you know what? It's the advice that every single person watching this episode and this podcast needs to hear, because right there, that's what you all need to do. You need to actually go out there and take that kind of action and do it every day. Not just once, not just a sprint. Building wealth, building success, it's not a sprint, folks. It's a marathon. It's a marathon, and I hope you can make it.
Yeah, there's no bodybuilder that works out at the gym once a week. Right? Or works out when he feels like it.
Feel like that's me, but I'm not a bodybuilder. That's good.
Right. Yeah, but there's no world-class athlete. There's no Olympian. It's like, Michael Phelps is like, well, I'll practice on Thursday. I'm not going to work out Monday through Thursday, but man, I am going to work my ass off on Friday and Saturday to get in Olympic shape. No, they're paying their dues every single day.
Every single day. Yeah. And a lot of people don't like Brady, but you really got to look at his work ethic. And there's a lot of talk about this, and a lot of books that talk about it, about how he's always in the gym first. And then when one of the other, players challenges him and they show up earlier, they never beat him, because he just gets there earlier the next day. And there's one story where, somebody gets there at 4 a.m. and they're like, oh, I beat him. I finally beat him. And they didn't beat him. His workout was already done. He'd already got there, finished his workout, and he's leaving before the other guy even got there. And it's just it's a cool story, because it's right along with what you're saying. You got to be savage, and you got to be willing to put in the work and be consistent about it and deliberate. You got to be very deliberate about where you're going. Because, I think, Ken Clothier, and one of the greatest things he ever taught me is he said, if you're working toward a goal, you need to know what that goal is. And he point blank, he says, what does your perfect day look like? And I started saying, he says, bullshit. He says, that's not your perfect day. You don't even know what your perfect day is, because until you can tell me what your perfect day is in one full swoop of what it's like the second you open your eyes, all the way through that day to what it's like when you close your eyes, that's the day you're working for, is to live that day every day. And you know, it got me. I was like, wow, I had pieces of it, but I never knew the whole thing. So I literally, me and my wife spent, I don't even know, almost a month planning in that perfect day, right down to what I hear. And, you know, although I can't say I'm living that perfect day, but there's one thing in my perfect day is when I open my eyes, I hear the ocean. Okay. So right off the bat, you know, I'm not living that day because I live in Buffalo, but I am living that day because your mind is a unique thing. And every morning I wake up and every night when I go to sleep, our Amazon or whatever those things are called, you know, it's playing ocean waves because my mind doesn't know the difference of whether or not that's a real ocean out there or not. I'm listening to the waves. So folks, you just got to really dream that day and understand what you're working toward. Because if you don't know what you're working toward, if you say, oh, I'm just working to make money, you're not going to make any money. That's all there is to it.
Or you can make money. You just won't make the kind of money that will make a difference. Good point.
Good point. Or you'll make money and it'll be gone. You know, a lot of people know how to make money. Very few people know how to keep that money, but you do. So Steve, this has been fantastic. And I thank you so much. Real quick, one more time, where could they find information? You said it was disruptors.com/Max,
M-A-X.
Okay. So I'm going to put that up in the show notes, folks, so you guys can click it, check it out. If you want to be at the top of your game, go see these guys. Go have Steve train you on how to be a savage. Folks, thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Money School. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.